Happy Thursday, everybody! Welcome to the Sean O'Connell Show. Glad to have you with us. The show today and every day brought to you by our friends at Big Willie's, Utah Sports Bar at 1717 South Main. Go check them out. Ask for some hot lunch. Actually, you know what they have coming up this week, James? I know you read about this. I know you got the email that I got. I love exclusive access to things. Big Willie's is hooking you up. They've got a new partnership with Outlaw Distillery. You probably have heard the Outlaw Distillery ads right here on ESPN 700. They're doing a big pre-release at Big Willie's for anyone who loves bourbon. It's today at 6:30. You can go to Big Willie's, taste an exclusive release by Outlaw Distillery. It's barrel-proof bourbon. That's 133 proof. That is the hot stuff. All right?
I thought you were going to say because of Big Noon Kickoff being in here, they made a Bourbon Meyer or something.
They should.
Limited release.
6:30 today, 1717 South Main. 6:30 on Thursday. That is today, 1717 South Main. If you're not a bourbon lover, by the way, or you don't want something that is quite so spicy, still worth heading down, checking out the craft cocktails at Big Willie's, your go-to sports bar. And if you don't have tickets to this weekend's game, they're going to be serving up delicious brunch while Big Noon Kickoff is happening. So go out, dress in your red, show up on set, be there waving your flags, and then if you don't have tickets to the game, no problem. Head down to Big Willie's, watch on the many big screens they've got down there, shoot some pool, have some food, tell them OC sent you.
By the way, that's not the only thing Outlaw makes. So if that's not that doesn't sound like your kind of drink. Like Outlaw, they have all the Outlaw spirits at Big Willie's. So check those out too.
It's just that's the only one that's a pre-release. That's like an exclusive access. That's a before you can actually buy it anywhere else. You can get it at Big Willie's, and 133 proof. Woo! Good luck, everybody.
Yeah.
Football back tonight. You've got NFL action, college football on Thursday nights. Is always, I'm a big fan of the college games that we see on Thursday. It starts the festivities of the weekend. So I appreciate that. Today, though, you only have Rice and Charlotte. That's not exactly a sexy matchup.
I mean, Jeff Schwartz is probably tuning in very closely to that. His Charlotte
49ers.
That's right. They're the 49ers. I love that that's the team you thought of when you were coming up with hypotheticals for him, by the way. You either go to that game if Oregon's playing them in your hometown, or your daughter's Saturday sports activities.
Your hypothetical scenario was better.
I know.
North Carolina being.
To be fair, I only thought of that because I'm like, there's got to be a better North Carolina one than more realistic North Carolina, Oregon. Like North Carolina football from the state, and I'm like, oh yeah, University of North Carolina opening week neutral site game. After that, I was like, also NC State would be is typically pretty good. So.
Friday, you've got Tulsa at Oklahoma State. We'll see how Mike Gundy handles that one.
Yeah, unfortunately, that might be a close game. I don't know.
Tulsa is not bad. They're not good, but they're not bad enough that you're just going to have an easy day. Iowa Rutgers, another Friday game. And, of course, starting off your slate on Saturday, early kick on Fox, Texas Tech, Utah at Rice-Eccles Stadium, which right now is, according to, ESPN has that little feature of how much you can get in the door for. It is top three most expensive games to get into for the weekend.
Wow.
The only two teams that have a higher base point for price, Florida at Miami. That's a function as much of where it's at as who's playing. Florida
big brands
at
though,
Miami,
too.
big brands. And then somewhat surprisingly for me, and again, this is according to the ESPN ticket tracker, Indiana, Illinois, which is a ranked versus ranked. Illinois, sneaky top 10 team right now.
The classic I formation rivalry.
And they're on the road at Indiana in Bloomington.
All eyes on them.
That is the number 2 most pricey ticket. And then get in the door price right now at Rice Eccles is allegedly $129 per ticket.
And this is whether it's secondary market or anything that's still available. Like no matter.
Well, nothing's still available.
Yeah, that's true.
This is from
secondary market probably.
And ESPN does theirs through like Vivid Seats, which
right, Vivid Seats is their partner. Yeah. If you're a listener to our station at night, early morning, night and weekends, you hear a lot of Vivid Seats ads from ESPN Radio.
So Utah versus Texas Tech coming. We've been talking about it all week. We will continue to talk about it. Play a breaking news sounder for me. This is awesome. This is the hard work of James Peterson paying off. You heard us wishing for it yesterday on the show, on the Sean O'Connell Show. Tomorrow, it actually happens. Urban Meyer, former head coach at the University of Utah, joins us here on the Sean O'Connell Show.
Yes, he's going to join his favorite player.
Cannot wait for that.
His favorite former player.
Baby, it's going to be so good. Oh, it's going to be so good.
It's funny. We've had this conversation off air a number of times, and this morning when I confirmed that he's coming on, when I confirmed that with you, you have a lot of stories that objectively it'd be like, man, you must hate that guy. But the way you talk about Urban, it sounds like even at the I was about to ask you, and I haven't asked you this. My guess would be at the time you might have hated him, but then the way you talk about it, like, it doesn't sound like you even hated him at the time. It was just really tough love style of coaching.
And look, that worked for me. And Urban, I've said this before, and I'll say it again, his very brief window at the University of Utah, where he had to bridge the gap between this, like, loving, still tough love, but, like, the style of Ron McBride.
Grandfatherly type.
Fatherly. Now, the kind that you don't want to disappoint, but you also love him and you'll do anything because you love him. To bridge the gap between that and then what Kyle Whittingham ended up making this program, which is a very respect-based and work-based program. To do that in the 2 years, Urban had his style, and I guess he just figured that with pretty established talents in Salt Lake City, like when he came in, and we'll probably touch on this tomorrow, when he came in, he had really good players. Urban was killing it on the recruiting trail at the University of Utah, but those guys that he was killing it on the recruiting trail, most of them were not the reason that he won 10 games and then 12 games. Most of them were not the reason why Utah became the first BCS poster. It was all Ron McBride guys, right? So maybe the style was adapted and changed when he was at Florida, changed when he was at Ohio State. I'll ask him tomorrow how different he was at those stops, how much his style evolved. But the way that he just demanded the most out of you and did it in a harsh and oftentimes like borderline abusive way, college football coaching at that time was in a place where you could do that. Social media was not ubiquitous. It was brand new. People were, I think, made of tougher stuff back then. You were probably used to playing for high school coaches in a lot of cases who came from that school of thought. And Urban was a hard ass, man. He was a drill sergeant. But guess what? How many times do you hear people like military veterans, where they're just like, oh, that dude was the worst. But it's like sort of a begrudging respect also, where you're just like, he made me a man, though. That's, I think, was my takeaway with Urban, and I think the takeaway from a lot of people with Urban. Was he a jerk? Yeah. Was he a jerk so much that you were just like, I hate that guy? No. He was a jerk so much that you wanted desperately to have his approval so that he wasn't a jerk to you anymore. Because he wasn't a jerk in the same way to like Morgan Scalley, Alex Smith, Eric Weddle, guys that he approved of. Everyone saw that if you put in the work and you did things his way, you were going to be successful. So you were willing to put in that work, even if he was breathing down your neck and telling you were a loser and that you were weak and you weren't athletic and everyone, he'd be like, "You're not Paul Soli. I don't think you could ever get there." And you're just like, "I'll prove you wrong."
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, it's a style that might not work today. It's a style that might not have worked in that exact window for other people, for other teams. It's, if I'm being frank, it's probably a style that didn't work for all of my teammates, but it worked for most.
It worked for the ones that it needed to, right? Like undefeated, 22-2 in 2 years. That can't argue against that.
He was also the best at turning it on and turning it off when he needed to. Like the flip of a switch where he was so charismatic with the media. He was so charismatic with the fan base. He was so charismatic with recruits and with families and with the people that he needed to be charismatic with. And then when he had to put on that drill sergeant hat, he put it on. So I hope we can have a nice, frank discussion with Coach Meyer tomorrow. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. We have a short window with him, but we're going to do it. Looking forward to it, and can't wait. I really can't wait. Well done, James, for booking that guest.
Yeah, shout out to Fox Sports and their PR folks for arranging that as well. Appreciate those.
Patrick Nowlin, I think it's Nowlin, is the CFO for the Utah Athletic Department.
CRO, excuse me.
Sorry.
Chief Revenue Officer in that financial.
He's in this. He's in the C-suite. CRO.
Yeah.
So he's going to join us at 11:30.
I think Deputy Athletic Director is part of his title as well, but Chief Revenue Officer is one of the first. Just like with Mark Harlan yesterday, we had folks up at the University of Utah say we really want this to be a great showing for the university and for the city and for Salt Lake City, and so we'd like you to have some time with you guys to promote Big Noon Kickoff and to talk about all the festivities and to really get you guys, Utah fans listening in, watching on YouTube, out there and showing out for this big game. So we're happy to have Patrick on to help with that effort.
Dishing with Dev again. The way it worked out yesterday, he kind of joined us live, sort of a surprise live, but we got to keep it where we keep it on Thursdays as well, and then we'll check in with Eric Weddle later on in the show today. He's coming off a bye week as a head coach at Rancho Bernardo, and of course, he's going to have a lot to say about Utah versus Texas Tech in a ranked matchup. Big picture things happening in the college football world that we cannot avoid talking about, or we would be remiss if we didn't mention and dive into a little bit. The transfer portal change is upon us. The transfer portal windows that have been shifted and shrinking now for a couple of years already. The vote went through. The official rule change is coming. Next year, 2026, there is one transfer portal window. There is no spring portal window. It is a winter window, and it looks like it's going to be a 10-day window from the 2nd to the 12th of January.
So that falls, if I'm not mistaken, in the college football playoff semifinals.
And for teams that are in the college football playoff, those rosters, players on those rosters, will have 5 days after the end of their own season. So if you get eliminated that week, you have 5 days after your elimination to jump into the transfer portal if you're on a playoff team.
And so the national championship game is, a week after that window closes? So those guys will have 5 days.
Playoff teams, and those, it's really interesting because those are the only coaches who are showing any kind of resistance to this. Remember at the college coaches caucus or whatever that thing was called, the convention, it was a unanimous vote. Get rid of the second transfer portal window. Make this a one-time thing. Now, I've been a proponent of doing it after spring ball, so you have at least a whole school year. The coaches have spoken, and the coaches want it here in January. Ryan Day and some other Big Ten coaches that he's spoken to, according to him, are like, whoa. I'm going to be in the college football playoff. You're telling me I have to manage the transfer portal, preparing for the most important games of the year, and retaining my own roster at the same time? Well, yeah, Ryan Day, you do, because you're already playing with a loaded deck. We don't care about this is the first time a rule change has been made that doesn't obviously affect and benefit the blue blood programs and the blue blood conferences more, like disproportionately more than everyone else. This is the first time in all of these college football rule changes in the last decade that we're seeing something that's like, hey, this actually does help level the playing field a tiny bit. And I put the poll question out there for all of you. A single transfer portal window in January, does that help Utah, hurt Utah, or no change? And the obvious answer for a lot of people is, well, we'd still have Zach Williams because he left after spring. You'd still have...
Unless those guys just decide I'm leaving earlier. Those guys that maybe we don't know.
I think
that Zach Williams
that one though feels like a pretty obvious one where he was a guy that showed himself, and through whatever avenue you think it was exposed, there are some people who think that Kyle Whittingham spoke about him too much. I don't think it's that. I think it's Zach Williams has contacts with his agent, has contacts with his high school coaches, has contacts with people from back home or for wherever who are just like, I'm the best player on my team right now. I'm the best wide receiver on this team. Any other team that needs a wide receiver needs me. And it's very easy to connect those dots now. I think that, there was enough going on with spring football where teams were looking at, first of all, their own rosters and acknowledging there's a little bit of need and saying, all right, let's go get who's the best Utah receiver right now? Who's the best group of 5 receiver right now? And this now closes that second window, closes that post-spring football window to where people cannot enter the transfer portal. Now, there's still going to be avenues and mechanisms that players can use to circumvent the transfer portal, where you just enroll at 2 schools. That happened once this year. It's not an easy way to do it. It's not one that's going to be particularly common, but it is something that I think on its surface at the very least calms down the insanity in college football just a little bit. It places the window after the primary signing period, which is now the early signing period, right? That used to be February, it used to be, now it's December, where the high school recruits, the top high school recruits are, 97% of them are settled, committed, signed wherever in that December window. So that is no longer happening concurrent with the transfer portal window opening. But what it does for players, if you're at BYU, for example, right? If you're Bear Bachmeier and Ryder Lyons has signed in December and is coming in, and there's no plan for a mission, and okay, now this dude is the 5-star recruit, the number 1 quarterback in the country. He's the guy that's going to want to play right away. I'm either going to stay and compete with him, or I'm going to have an honest conversation with my coaches, and they're going to say, we think that he's ready to go as a freshman, and I can jump in this transfer portal window now. There's a little bit more clarity when it comes to the high school players coming in. Now, a lot of times, if you're a really good player, you don't have to worry about the freshman that's committing, but there are cases with extremely high-profile recruits where that is going to affect things. You have a season's worth of reps, a season's worth of film study, a season's worth of meetings with your coaches to help determine, as they're making their plans for spring football, hey, am I going to be part of things moving forward? Now, spring football is the ultimate clarifier if you are going to be part of things moving forward. It's the camp where you are supposed to be able to kind of earn your reps and earn your spot. So this is requiring coaching staffs to do plenty of planning ahead and to evaluate a lot of what they are seeing in fall rather than spring, even with developing players, to determine their investment in that player. But this emphasizes the importance of your exit meetings after your season is over. And that's why you get the 5 days after your college football playoff appearance season is over, because you got to give even those coaching staffs and especially those players an honest crack at knowing whether or not, do I want to be at Ohio State? Am I going to be part of the plans at Ohio State? If I'm at Utah, I want to. Utah wins the Big 12 championship. They're in the college football playoff. I want to stay at Utah, Coach. I really think that, this could be good. Or maybe you're like, Coach Witt retired after we lost that game or after we won that game. I wanted to play for him. I'm going. You now have one window. And the big change here is that you will participate in spring practice, in summer workouts, in fall camp, and in a full football season before you can seek greener grass. Imagine the relief for head coaches in college football right now that they do not have to spend a month of their time twice a year, 1/6 of their year, re-recruiting their own players while also seeking talent from the transfer portal that's coming from elsewhere. You now have cut that in half, and more realistically, more importantly, you have given coaches an opportunity to work with guys for more than 4 months. If you were transferring in the winter window as a young player last year, you had been with the University of Utah, with BYU, with Colorado, with USC, with Washington, whoever. If you were a freshman, you had been there for 4 months. You showed up in August. You went through a season. You didn't like the way things were going, and you jumped in the transfer portal in December. 4 months is not enough of a sample size, probably. Even if you made it all the way to the spring window, you were there for 8 months. Now you're going to get a situation where people either have to make the decision, and that 4-month cutoff is still there because the winter window is still there, or hopefully, more realistically, it's going to be an August to the following January type of cycle. I committed, I enrolled, I got myself on campus, here I am. Or, the top recruits now, a lot of those guys are early enrollees at their respective universities. I enrolled in January. I went through the full calendar year as a true freshman, and now the transfer portal window opens again next January. This is better. It's just plain better. Does it help Utah? I think it does. Because as a development program, as a program with the reputation for getting the most out of guys by integrating them into your culture, having the opportunity to coach up their technique, getting them into the weight program and all those things, not only do you get to have a better sense of what those players can be or will be in your program, they get a better sense of what they can be or will be within your program. A true freshman coming in, and you still can, but if you choose to transfer out after that first season you're there, you're here in August or late July, and then you transfer out in January, you haven't given yourself enough time to know what your place is on that team. You haven't given the coaching staff enough time to figure out how they want to use you. I mean, imagine if Hunter Andrews had just skipped out in like a January portal before spring ball happened, and they were just like, let's shift you positionally and see how we can use you in this offense. Hunter Andrews is going to be one of the more important players on this team this year.
And, yeah, they didn't use him near as much against UCLA than what a lot of us thought he would. And after that game, we're like, maybe he won't be utilized that much. But since then, he's been featured quite a bit as a Swiss Army knife athlete, kind of H-back, whatever you want to call him, position-wise, tight end. He's been used quite a bit. So I think that besides the first game, he's validating a lot of what we saw and heard about him in spring ball that made us think, yeah, he's going to be a big part of this offense.
So far, the brand new survey at Real OC Sports 51% of you think this single transfer portal window helps Utah. Only 6.4% think it hurts Utah. 42.6% think that this makes no marked difference.
Yeah,
So,
I'm not surprised that that's how it's playing out. That the no difference is second, and it's a fairly close second on this. I'm kind of teetering between the two, OC, because I don't know. There's obvious things like you said, like Zacharias Williams leaving after spring football. He wouldn't have had that option this year. But I'm not sure that we won't just see more guys who would have been like, I want to see how things go in spring. I'm not sure we won't see more guys just be like, I'll leave now then. I'll leave in January, and it's kind of a wash, and that's why it's a no difference. The other thing is I don't know that we know how much it's going to help until we see how it plays out. I think in general it helps college football because there's less chaos. So if you're thinking of it just in that general way, yeah, you vote helps Utah because it's going to help everyone with roster building. But there could also just be guys that a lot more guys just leave well before they know they're standing in spring football because they're not positive about it. So I'm just going to go in the portal just to see what's out there, or to be like, I'll just get out now because I don't know for sure that I'm going to be a key part of this team. It'll be interesting to watch. I probably am leaning it helps Utah though, because I think that the less chaos helps roster building and roster retention. So of course it's going to help Utah.
The way that I think it helps, Utah is more of a destination in the transfer portal, right? You're still on the right side of that ledger. Yes, there are people who are going to leave, and yes, you're going to have talent poached. That's the reality now. But the net for the transfer portal, I still think is a gain for Utah. And if you're in the position of being a net gain team, not having everyone else after spring football be able to say like, oh, well, guess what? This guy we brought in showed us in spring he's not really going to be ready for the fall. So let me go out and poach somebody else's talent. I think that helps Utah because you're right. Maybe more people are going to be a little bit in flux and they're going to not know what their future is. And they're going to want to try spring football at USC instead of spring football at Utah and then transferring to USC. But this removes the power dynamic for like there's probably, 35 teams, 40 teams in the college football world that are bigger spenders, bigger brands than Utah. And this changes the power dynamic with those teams, especially because Alabama no longer gets to see how things settle after their spring camp and say, all right, we need more. Let's go grab someone from somewhere else. If they want to do that, they now have to do that with less information and in more of a rush in a January window. And they probably will because they got the money to spend. But the reason I like it is because it removes that dynamic where however many teams you decide it is, I think there's probably 35. The bigger boys don't get to say, well, I don't like what I have in my cupboard. Let me raid somebody else's kitchen. Because the kitchen they're going to raid is at some point, they're going to at least attempt to raid Utah's kitchen. Just the same way that Utah raids Utah State's kitchen and Arizona's kitchen and anyone who's lower on the ladder than you get to look down and say, and, Utah now doesn't get to do that as successfully. But I have more trust in the projection powers for Utah coaches than pretty much even those teams that are quote unquote bigger brands and they're blue bloods. Those guys don't have to have the same eye that Utah does because they just get to pick off the top of the pile. Well, now the top of the pile is hidden in a way compared to what it was with with the spring window open, with two transfer portal windows open. I like it. I like that this is the change made. I still wouldn't mind if it was after spring instead, but that's not for me to decide. This is for the coaches to decide. This is what has been decided. I'm sure we'll have stories this summer about players suing their way out of it or attempting to sue their way out of it. But for now, the grease fire that is NIL and transfer and revenue sharing in college sports gets a little baking soda thrown on. We're calming down the inferno just a touch. That's a good thing for everybody. All right. Take a quick one here. Utah hosting Texas Tech for big noon kickoff. 16 in the country versus 17 in the country. Patrick Nowlin from the Utah Athletic Department, Chief Revenue Officer, joins us on Utah's number one sports talk, ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. Welcome back to the Sean O'Connell Show. Little housekeeping. Eric Weddle now coming on at noon. Devin Dampier, edition with Dev, moved to 1 o'clock today. So Weddle in about 25 minutes. Dev to start hour number 3 here on the Sean O'Connell Show. Right now, we're lucky enough to welcome Patrick Nolan, Chief Revenue Officer, Deputy Athletic Director at the University of Utah, ahead of Big Noon Kickoff. Patrick, welcome to the show for the first time. How are you?
I'm great for having me today.
Yeah, appreciate you giving us some time. Now, for Utes fans who don't know, you spent time at Notre Dame. You spent time at Oklahoma. It's not we're not going to be shy about admitting that those are two teams with a little bit more of a blue blood history in college football than the University of Utah. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but probably, your experience is helping close that gap and allowing Utah to get onto that tier at some point, if possible. When you compare your experience at Notre Dame, at Oklahoma, at the way things are run in those programs, and you see the way things are done and you're helping do things at the University of Utah, how successfully are we closing the gap right now?
Well, I think we're closing it at a rapid speed, and it really starts from the top down. The alignment between President Randall and the board and Mark Harlan has really allowed us to be on the cutting edge. And as we move into this new day of college athletics, we are prepared for it, and we are right on the precipice of something great. The other thing I think that's really impactful is having Coach Witt. I was lucky enough to work with Bob Stoops and Lincoln Riley and Marcus Freeman, but I'll tell you what, Coach Witt is in a class of his own. So being around those other coaches are great, but there's something about Witt that just puts him in another stratosphere. So we are very well positioned for the future, and we are very well positioned for the present, and we're looking for a great weekend this weekend.
Well, it's going to be an awesome one, and we're getting closer and closer. Now, there's people who have been texting in and wondering about kind of the logistical challenges. The Big Noon kickoff tent is being set up where the Smith's tailgate tent usually is, and folks are like, I don't know, not worried, but there's just questions about how do I get to campus? Is there going to be bigger obstacles? Is there going to be more security, whatever it is? So tell me, how are we going to get the best showing possible from Utah fans at this Big Noon kickoff set and, of course, at the game itself?
Well, first thing is we need them to arrive early. We need them to arrive early and be loud. And we've created a lot of opportunities to make it easier for our fans. We have 2 lots that will be up by the Primary Children's Hospital that will be free lots. We will have shuttles that will begin at 5 a.m. that will run the fans down and drop off right in front of the Big Noon kickoff right there by the Smith's tailgate. But one thing we're doing this week that's a little different is we're going to close some lots. So beginning at 6 o'clock, we're going to have our guardsmen tailgate. If you've ever been there on game day, that is rowdy as can be. So we want them to come early, want them to party all night, be ready for the morning, and be loud for that early kickoff. We're also going to open up our East Stadium lots at 8 p.m., which is going to be a little earlier than we have traditionally as well. We want to allow our fans the opportunity to get there the night before, settle in. But then as the morning gets started, we're going to get rolling at 4 a.m. So bring your appetite because we're going to have plenty of food. Also, we're going to have a lot of giveaways going on. We're going to give away tickets to a Utah football game. We're going to give away a $500 gift card to the campus store. We've got some Red West VIP packages. We got 2 Icon packages, just to name a few. So we've got a lot of stuff going. If you come, you're going to be fed, and you're going to be entered in opportunities to win some great prizes, and you're going to be on TV, and you're going to be loud, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
UtahUtes.com for more details. Follow the Utah Athletic Department and all the social channels as the details continue to be posted, and maximize your potential for a great showing on Saturday morning. 10 a.m. is the kickoff for the game, remember. So that means you got to carve out 2-3 hours beforehand to get yourself ready for the game and to be up on campus and to be engaged with a really unique opportunity here. I should probably know this, but how hard is it to get this stuff to come together? Are there contingency plans in place before the season even starts? Like, hey, if Big Noon wants to come, if game day wants to come, this is where we're going to put them. This is what we're going to do. I imagine the athletic department, because it's not unfamiliar territory that Utah is hosting nationally relevant games, I imagine there's got to be like some kind of game plan for this stuff.
Oh, there is. And, it takes an entire university to do this. So we partner across campus with other campus units to make this a great experience. And we had 2 locations we were looking at. The location we had game day previously, and right there on President Circle, but we also had this area right here, and Fox really wanted this. And so we had the plan in place. We were fortunate enough to get a head start on knowing when this was going to happen. So we got a little bit of extra planning, and it took everybody to pull this thing together. But really, really excited about the group that we worked with and what we pulled together, and excited to show it off on Saturday.
Patrick Nolan, Associate Athletic Director, Chief Revenue Officer at the University of Utah, is our guest right here on the Sean O'Connell Show. Let's talk about the game itself. Let's talk about how loud the must needs to be, how packed the stadium needs to be at a 10 a.m. kickoff. I mean, people have families, people have Little League sports, people have all that stuff. Do we expect, I don't know, a shift in the audience that maybe some of the season ticket holders, the family folks might have offloaded to more students? What kind of demographic are we looking at? Is it going to be what we usually see at Rice Eccles, or are we going to have to skew younger? Because anyone who's got kids, it's harder on a Saturday morning.
Oh, it is hard, and we completely understand that. But what we've seen through just our ticket transactions is our fans are hanging on to their tickets, and it's going to be a packed house. You only get an opportunity to do this once or twice a year, and so I think our fans are going to be there, they're going to show up, and they're going to be there loud. We don't want people to have to choose between their kids and choosing between their sports. But, one day out of the year, I think the kids could miss the sports and be there and be loud, because it's going to be an experience that they'll never get. So it's going to be an amazing game, and it's going to be loud. Cannon will be firing, and we're going to be ready to rock and roll at 10 a.m.
So we're optimistic that the outcome we're all looking for is exactly what unfolds on Saturday. How do you, as an athletic department, you in your role, capitalize on that national spotlight? Let's say everything goes the way we want it to go. Stadium is full. Fox set is packed with red. Big win for the Utes, climbing up the rankings. Red Raiders head home dejected and sad, but having had a good experience in Salt Lake City. How do you capitalize on a day like we hope Saturday will be?
You always got to have your plans in place. And I think one thing that we've really done in this shifting landscape is we've put our student athletes on the front of all of this. And one thing, our quarterback is one of the top selling NIL store athletes in the entire country. So when you get an opportunity like this, you got to be ready to promote. You got to be ready to make sure that you can capitalize on this on a monetary value, but also on a fan experience value. Build to the next game and continue to elevate the experience. And that's what we do here at Utah. We don't want this to be the peak. We just want this to be the bar that we're going to pass on the next game. We want to do some amazing fan experience things this year. We're looking at some drone shows. We're looking at some other things that we're going to be able to do this year to elevate that fan experience. And a game like this is a jump-off point to continue to build and bolster and make this a very special season, not only on the field, but in the stands as well.
When you look at the Utah place right now in the Big 12, as the Big 12 conference is, figuring out its identity and doing these creative sort of mechanisms for revenue generation, bringing in WWE associations, and they just had another overseas game announced and things like that. Where does Utah football stand with something like that? Well, I'll just use that as the question.
Sure.
If, you get the phone call, hey, we want to do a game in Berlin, we want to do a game in Paris, we want to do a game in London or whatever, where does Utah football with the Big 12's initiatives in that regard?
You got to look at every option that comes here, right? And when you get an opportunity to put your brand on a stage that is unique like that, you've got to be open to it. You mentioned the WWE. On our game against Cincinnati, the WWE will be here, and we will be doing activations with them during the game. So you'll see some WWE superstars running around. The Big 12 has given us an opportunity that if we can embrace it, we can do some really fun and amazing things and make this a really unique place that when people look at it across the country, they go, what is Utah doing? I want to be like them. And that's exactly what we're going to do, is take advantage of those opportunities when they come and make sure that they're the best fit for our university and our brand. But there's nothing that we'll shy away from if it's the right fit.
Could Utah become a primary flag bearer, torch bearer for the Big 12 conference? Texas and Oklahoma left, there's a vacuum that's created when something like that happens. Utah comes in. I mean, Oklahoma State has been a consistent brand. Kansas State has been a consistent brand. Colorado's got the Coach Prime thing going on right now. Can Utah become one of the, the torchbearers for the Big 12 Conference over this next year?
Oh, I think so. I mean, it goes back to what we talked about from the beginning, the alignment from the top down and the administration, the great head coaches that we have here, not only in football, but all around. Coach Jensen being here, Coach Peterson and everything he's doing, Carly and what she does with the gymnastics program. We can be that standard because we are an everything program. And I think that's what makes Utah unique is it's not just one or two sports. It's everything. And we have such a great fan base that this opportunity for us is right there, and we're ready to capitalize on it.
All right, what time are you getting there on Saturday, Patrick?
Oh, let's see, about 4 a.m. My 7-year-old asked if he could come, and I said, no, buddy, this one you need to stay at home. So.
Oh, that's fantastic. I feel for the 7-year-old, but you being there at 4, that's great. We'll see you early on Saturday up there. Thanks for joining us on the show today. Go Utes.
Go Utes. Thank you.
Patrick Nolan. Patrick, I've had an opportunity to interact with him a couple times sort of behind the scenes. Really cool dude. And it's not coincidental. Mark Harlan made that hire because he's a guy who spent time at Notre Dame, helped achieve Notre Dame's greatest revenue generation year in Notre Dame football history. Notre Dame football history.
That's a big deal because they struggle to generate revenue at Notre Dame. My gosh, that's quite the thing to put on your resume.
Yeah, and then, you spent time at Oklahoma as well. So that's the kind. Look, it's the kind of stuff you need because Utah, there are obstacles to becoming a blue blood if you're not already a blue blood. History can't be undone. But for Utah to have established itself to this point as not a blue blood, maybe kind of in the new blood category, but as a team that is
certainly a majorly developing brand,
nationally respected now, and you heard him mention Devin Dampier, to capitalize on, hey, you've got a star player, let's push this star player. When Pat McAfee is hanging out and talking about how much he loves Devin Dampier, send him a Devin Dampier jersey. Guess what the Utah Athletic Department does? Sending it all over. You know what I mean? The Utes equipment does those packages, the boxes.
I'm sure Matt Leinart has a Dampier jersey after he boldly said Kyler Murray, Heisman candidate, after the UCLA game.
Kyler Murray, by the way, it's a compliment. When you're talking about him as a football player.
We're talking about his college college experience primarily, too.
If you're a mediocre quarterback in the NFL, you're still an NFL quarterback, all right? So, but Kyler Murray, with one of the most boneheaded, tone-deaf moves we've seen this week on social media.
Which, by the way, that's not a move Devin Dampier would do.
Never. So it's just like, right when you're like, oh, yeah, Kyler Murray, that's a good equivalent, and then Kyler Murray just steps in a you-know-what. You're just like, never mind. Not
but when
Kyler
you're
Murray.
Talking about his Heisman Trophy winning season, what was that, 2018 or 2019 at Oklahoma? Like, that's the quarterback that all Utes fans should want Devin Dampier to be, for sure. So when Matt Leinart said those things after the UCLA game, I'm sure he got himself a Devin Dampier jersey. The other thing about this, I don't know if you read our guy Chris Kamrani's recent piece on The Athletic about dialects and Southern accents and stuff, and how there might be. He talked with a bunch of linguistics professors and stuff about whether the Southern accent lends you more credibility in the football world. I mean, Patrick Nolan, he's got that going for him too. So we love that. We love having that. Whatever credibility that might bring University of Utah, we love that from Patrick Nolan too.
Hot lunch coming next. Eric Weddle will be with us 10 minutes after that. It's the Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. Hot lunch here on the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. Live Night Events Live Night Events is presenting the 2025 Granary Live Concert Series. Nightingale College, Murdoch Hyundai, Utah's #1 Hyundai dealer, are behind all this. Outdoor concerts in the heart of downtown Salt Lake City at the Granary District. Details are available still at ESPN700sports.com. Eric Weddle's going to join us in about 5 minutes because we were just talking about the scuttlebutt that some of the big media folks in the land, including folks who are going to be on the Big 12, the big noon kickoff set. Matt Leinart has been very complimentary of Devin Dampier. Pat McAfee's on my television right now. He's been very complimentary of Devin Dampier. What do you think the Heisman odds are right now for Devin Dampier?
All
right, I'll ask it this way.
Yeah.
Where does he rank among the favorites for the Heisman Trophy?
That'll be easier for me, who has not looked at this at all, to answer. I would say he's got to be top 15.
He's top 10.
Top 10.
Currently, these are updated daily. And
it's that Heisman moment he had with Larry Simmons.
It's what it is. Plus 1,700, which I think you could get him at like plus 10,000 at the beginning of the season. So now, oh, guys, sorry. You missed that boat maybe. Devin Dampier is 8th, or tied for 8th, I should say.
8th?
Tied for 7th. Julian Sayin, Devin Dampier, and Joey Aguilar, who's at Tennessee and is just part of the great story of Nico's transfer to UCLA. If you remember, they effectively swapped
basically
places.
A trade. Yeah.
Basically a trade.
The first trade in college football history, pretty much.
And imagine this, okay? You're Joey Aguilar. You have no intention to leave UCLA. And then UCLA pursues aggressively Nico Iamaleava. And you're like, wait, I thought I was going to be the starting quarterback at UCLA. And your coach is just kind of like, this Nico kid. And then Nico's coaches from Tennessee are just like, hey, so you need a job now, right? Like, yeah. Okay, come to Tennessee. We just coincidentally had a bunch of NIL money get freed up by the departure of somebody who stole your job. And now you are tied for 7th in the Heisman Trophy odds, and Nico's 0-3. It's a cruel, cruel world for some in college football, and not so much for Joey.
I'll say this, not to get too far off track here, but Julian Sayin being top 7 is – I'm obviously Buckeyes fan, so I have high hopes for him, but I don't know that he's shown – I mean, they beat Grambling 70-0, and they had another blowout against Ohio. But I guess Devin hasn't had a great resume, but I think
quarterback at Ohio State University, you're top 10.
You're getting in because you're getting that benefit of the doubt, but I'm not sure I think Devin has shown a lot more. That Texas game, Julian was a little rough, of course, first ever start against one of the best defenses in the country. But and of course, Devin hasn't had a game against opponent like Texas yet, so I don't know. That's a little surprising to me based on his performance that he's that high. But it shouldn't be that big a surprise.
This is just prediction. There's no one's had their Heisman moment yet. No one's built enough of a resume,
except for Devin Dampier,
to have the Heisman moment yet. Carson Beck, John Mateer are the top 2. They're tied at plus 800. Dante Moore is alone. Nope. Dante Moore, Gunnar Stockton, and Jeremiah Smith are next. And then it's Marcel Reed from Texas A&M. After that, Julian Sayin, Devin Dampier, Joey Aguilar.
Some of those guys,
best odds.
I would say Aguilar is the guy who's out of those 3 that are tied with Devin. I would say he's had the best. It looks like he's earned it the most. He's played against better teams and really shown out than those 3. So anyway, he's
higher right now than Jackson Arnold, than Drew Aller. Higher on the list right now than Josh Hoover at TCU, who's had a great year so far.
Mm-hmm.
Baron Morton, who's had a great year so far. higher now than Arch Manning, who was very high on this list, and
Man,
unfortunately he's had a really bad year.
Rough start for him.
Sam Levitt started the season as the highest in the Heisman odds in the Big 12 Conference at Arizona State. He's now plus 5,500, so he's actually gotten worse.
Yeah.
So yeah, his name is being talked about in the right circles. Devin Dampier's name, and he is now elevated into plus 1,700 for the Heisman Trophy odds. I don't think
his resume is really good from individual stats, like over 200 yards passing every game and over like 70, 80 yards rushing every game. Like
he's leading his
and
team
no
in rushing.
interceptions, multiple touchdowns a game.
Big key right now. He has not turned the ball over.
The completion percentage is ridiculously high right now. Yeah.
For those who care, Jake Retzloff plus 6,500, about 20th in the Heisman Trophy odds right now. All right, got to take a break here. We're going to come back with Eric Weddle, E-Dub on the other side. Utah's #1 sports talk. It's the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Welcome back to the Sean O'Connell Show. Welcome in one of our favorites, Utah football legend, longtime NFL veteran, head coach of the Rancho Bernardo Broncos, who are undefeated on the season. Eric Weddle joins us on a Thursday. Eric, how are you?
Oh, man, everything's good. Big game Saturday. We got a big game Friday night. We're off our bye. No more byes the rest of the way, all the way to the championship. We're ready to go. Ready to go. Energy is high. Energy is high. And I like what the future holds for my Utes and our Broncos.
Did you win the bye week?
We definitely won the bye week. The days of practicing all 5 days and scrimmaging and padded practices are long gone, like the olden days. And so, I threw him a bone, made sure we got some work in. We lifted 3 times during the week. We only practiced twice, getting some guys back from injury that we haven't had all season. So I'm excited. The guys did some fun things on the bye week. They went out to eat and hung out over the weekend. So they came back rejuvenated, connected, and ready for the stretch run.
What's the opponent look like this week?
We play West Covina. It's a 2-hour-plus road trip for us. It'll be our second one of the season where we've had to travel 2 hours, 2.5 hours to a game, and handled it pretty well the first time. Made some uncharacteristic mistakes, but it's a good team. They're big, physical, run a wing tee-ish type offense. Defense very vanilla and basic. Cover 3 or cover man, single high, pre-snap. Don't really do much else. Little odd man front. And some 4-down looks, but pretty basic. So we go out, execute, and play our style of football. I think we come away with the win.
Well, we are anti-West Covina Bulldogs this week on the Sean O'Connell Show. And all of our listeners, let's go. Pro Broncos. All right, let's talk some Utah football. Look, playing in big games is something that I imagine over the course of your long and illustrious career, you got so used to. I'm not sure that it really changes much. For a lot of these Utes, this is going to be, by far, the biggest spotlight ever shined on their performance. This is big noon kickoff, nationally televised game, ranked opponent, everyone talking about it, sold-out stadium. It just feels different. And for some of the transfers that have come in, for the freshmen that are getting opportunities to contribute on this team, this is the big one. This is a huge test right off the bat in Big 12 play. As a leader on the team, as a more experienced guy, how do you make sure that those individuals are handling this right and are going into the game with the right mentality?
Yeah, there's a lot that goes into that mindset, the experience, the growth, the leadership. Big Noon Kickoff is basically college game day from ESPN. This is awesome for the school, the university, the city, the people to show how amazing Salt Lake is and the support, the people, how we treat others. So this is awesome for them, awesome for our school. Honestly, the guys are going to be geeked up. It'll be interesting to see how they handle the 10 a.m. kickoff. That's early, or like early. Figure and know we'll have a great plan for the morning of and the timing and all that other stuff. So I'm just interested in to see what the product looks like. And on top of that, it's trying to do the little things correctly, right? Like no pre-snap penalties, no dead ball penalties, snap, hold, catch. Like the things that you take for granted in big games become big issues, right? So that's going to be the difference. We don't really know how good really is Texas Tech, and a lot of people don't know how good we are. So it's a battle of the unknowns per se, but we're both ranked. I like the matchup. I like really top end we are on the offensive line against their top end D line. So who's going to win that battle will probably determine who wins the game, if I'm being honest. The trenches in the offensive line and defensive line, the line of scrimmage. So how you handle all that will be a factor, and this is what you play for. So handle the excitement, but also understand that we have to be composed. You have to handle your emotions and go out and do your job.
What's more likely when you have a premier unit versus premier unit matchup, right? You already mentioned it. Offensive line for Utah, supposed to be top 5 in the country. There are plenty of people who think that Texas Tech, with their offseason spending, got that for themselves on the defensive front as well. Now, the way I see it, it could go one of a couple ways. You have, one of those two units prove like, oh, guess what? You're not actually as good as everyone thought you were. We're the Utah offensive line, and we're going to bowl you over. Or maybe more likely, strength versus strength kind of cancels out a little bit, where Utah's offensive line is good enough to make sure that they don't have their defense front doesn't have a massive impact like they might in other games, but also their defensive front might make Utah's offensive line look a little bit less dominant. And then, of course, if that happens, if they cancel out, it means everyone else has to step up. It means that the non-star players have to be better than their non-star players. Which of those is more likely in this game in your mind?
Man.
Like, how did it go in the NFL when it was like when you're playing for a team with an elite unit and like your defensive backfield versus one of the best wide receiving cores in the NFL? In those games, was it like, oh, we got the better of you today, or was it more likely that you guys just kind of canceled out and it ended up being the run game that decided things?
Yeah, like it usually. In my experience, it's gone both ways. Like when I was on a top 5 or number 1 defense playing against a top 5 or number 1 offense, we either shut them down and won, or we got our faces peeled, and it was a long day. So honestly, I would give the advantage at this level at college. I would give the advantage to the offense because the scheme and formationally, how you can help certain guys on the line if they need it, and then having Devin back there is a huge weapon for our offense to relegate the defensive line and the impact they can have and the things that he could do. So I think it'll be a balanced affair between the two. But I think we ultimately will impose our will with the run game, and then getting frustrated that they can't touch Devin and get any type of negative plays, and we'll show who the better unit is for sure.
There's been, in the first 3 games for Utah, there's been things that I would still characterize as kind of like experimentation offensively. Some of the defensive guys coming over and playing, and it's not real gadget stuff. I mean, they're playing within a system, but it's stuff you can do and you can test out against Cal Poly and Wyoming especially. Now you're getting into Big 12 play, and you got to have your meat and potatoes to go along with all that stuff. Do you anticipate in this game that you see the same level of creativity and gadgetry and defensive guys playing offense against Texas Tech that we've seen in the first 3 games?
I do, because the biggest weapon amongst many things, but how you defend on defense to formations, to motions, to shifts makes life miserable for a defense. So the more you can move and shift and motion and give different looks to different formations to make the defense think on the fly, you're going to have an advantage. Now, it also requires you to have very smart guys, quarterback that can handle all that, get the ball out, make sure you're making the proper decisions. The offensive line has to be in tune, but that is a huge advantage for us. And I felt that at UCLA. I felt that at Wyoming, not as much to that level. I think they had a few weeks to prepare for UCLA and to put a great game plan together. And honestly, I thought Wyoming was pretty dang good up front. So I want to see that. I want to see change of pace. I want to see different calls and different movements and formations and shifts and motions just for eye candy, if that's all it is, because it makes the defense on their heels. It makes them think, and when you think, you stink.
I like that one. When you think, you stink. I'm going to start using that anytime my wife says she's thinking about something. Eric Weddle's our guest here on the Sean O'Connell Show. Did you know the games where there was a significant NFL scout presence to watch your matchup, to watch your, like you were the guy that the scouts were coming to watch in the later stages of your career? Did you know those games versus the other games?
I can honestly say this. I didn't know one time if there ever was a scout or even looking around for scouts. It never was crossed my mind. It never even was a thought. So, I don't. They may have been there, but I never remember seeing any of them or worrying about it. So, and that's kind of keeping the main thing. If you start worrying about things that you can't control, it'll affect you, especially in a team sport. So I would just remind those guys to let your play do the talking, and when it's all said and done, you'll end up where you end up when it comes to the NFL.
What about when, even if you weren't thinking through the NFL scout lens about it, you knew when you were going up against another elite player, right? When it was your job to shut down Megatron or whatever, when it was your job to, I don't know who the guys were, when you were at Utah, although I guess Megatron was one of those guys at one point. But like where this week you've got Caleb Lomu and Spencer Fano are going up against Romello Height and David Bailey. They're supposed to be two of the best 5 pass rushers in the Big 12 Conference, and they're supposed to be guys that are playing on Sundays. And the same, of course, is true for Lomu and for Fano. So they know these matchups are coming. How do you approach that? Because you have to be at your best, but you can't do things differently than what's made you good.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you put it in context of those, I think those guys are much bigger and higher names and potential than I was. So I think, the attention and scouts that are going to be potentially at this game or watching this matchup for the rest of the season it'll be the first tape that they put on when they look at our tackles and our offensive line, when you're looking at how they fared against top NFL talent. So now, what is your process? You never want to change your process depending on the game and who you're going against, because then it gets you out of whack. It's like you're stressing, you're pressing. Just stick to your routine, stick to what is being taught, what the plan is, and executing your job, and then trusting in your ability that you can lock down anyone. Like it's so much of playing at a high level is the mindset. Everyone has talented, right? Everyone's elite at something, some trait you're elite at. When you get in those matchups, it really comes down to your mind and the confidence that you believe in yourself. And then are you in tune with your opponent? Every little detail that you can have to take it as an advantage for yourself in game. Are you willing to do all that to make sure you put your best foot forward?
The greatest weapon that Texas Tech has in this game is their experienced quarterback, Baron Morton, the wide receivers. Their passing game has been wildly prolific. He's, I think, second in the country right now in total passing. And there are some people who are thinking this is not the same caliber of Utah secondaries we're accustomed to seeing. Now you got Rabbit Evans, who's out for the season. We've already addressed in previous conversations, some of the breakdowns and guys losing their eyes. How important is it to make sure that those things don't happen against a team that relies so heavily on the pass?
Well, yeah, I mean, you don't want to get in a situation where you got multiple blown coverages for touchdowns, especially early. You always want to make the opponent earn it and make them do something that's not out of something that's out of the norm, right? Like, what are their top pass plays? What are their top concepts? They're formationally Are they tempo? Well, what do they do good? All right, let's negate that. Let's eliminate that and make them do something out of character for them to have success against us. So you have to go in, which they will, having a game plan of taking away what they're good at, and then from there it's playing ball. It's just getting in the flow of the game, calling calls, trying to stay ahead of the opponent. But we got to be on cue this week. We can't have those mishaps and think we'll play well on the defensive side of the ball.
And we've talked about this before, but it's been relatively clean for Utah. When the UCLA game was damn near perfect, and then even against Cal Poly, when you made mistakes, you dominated the rest of the game, but it kind of washed those things away. Second half against Wyoming, you got the first half mistakes cleaned up, but this team has not really turned the ball over a ton. They've been pretty dominant on third downs. When it doesn't go well, right? Because I anticipate Texas Tech being good enough to have some of these situations arise for Utah on Saturday, where maybe they turn the ball over. There's a quick change. There's a penalty that takes away a score, whatever. How do you overcome those moments, stay the course, and make sure you win a game when you're against an equal? Because I think talent-wise, these rosters are pretty equal.
Well, I think it comes back to the culture. It comes back to your identity, who you are as a defense, as a team. I mean, that so much goes into that from January to now, where you're team building, you're competing, you're handling adversity, you're finding ways to find solutions of problems, right? Like, that's what the offseason is for. So you get in the game and you're just reacting. And listen, our defense and the system and Coach Scally and his mantra, his personality, his standard is entrenched in not just the defense but everyone in our program. So I don't foresee us not having answers. I don't foresee us struggling with change of possession or a turnover, or hey, they get a quick strike on us. We come back, we reset, and we get back out there because we understand as a program, and especially on defense, that it's time tested. If we play together and do what we're coached to do, we shut down teams, right? Like, there's no other options with it. We are one of the best defenses in the league for years because it's who we are. So I think we'll be able to handle that stuff. Yeah, there's some youth, there's some new guys in the program, but at the end of the day, that's who we are. So, will this group? I want them to have a little adversity because it builds your character and it builds the type of team that we're eventually going to have this season. So, hey, if things don't go our way, the first series, couple series, we figure it out and we keep fighting and we find a way to win, right? And that's why it's a team game.
As you know, big noon kickoff going to be in town for this one, 10 a.m. early. Ute fans are going to have to show out up there right by the facility and get on set, get in the stadium, and make it loud. Urban Meyer coming back as part of that crew. He's been back in town for, ceremonies and things like that. We get a chance to talk to him on the show tomorrow. I can't wait. It's my first time interviewing Urban in my entire radio career. It's going to be glorious. But give me your favorite Urban Meyer story.
Oh, wow. Geez, I have a tough time remembering yesterday. 20 years ago, my friend. Wow. I could honestly, what I remember most is, and how I actually took this as a head coach is, as he always let the special teams, and I usually was the punt team, eat first. I always loved how he highlighted the special teams, how he focused on the special teams, and made them feel important. And so I do the same thing. So I would say I think I remember that most. And I remember another thing on the flip side, that if you are a guy that he called him an orange eater, where at halftime you hadn't played a snap and you're the first one eating the oranges, like, you probably weren't on the team that next week. So I think I've also taken that. Like, hey, we are a team. We do play together, and I love everyone in here, but we all have our roles, and don't be an orange eater, okay? Or when you get to the NFL, don't be a skater, where that means when you're about to make the tackle and then you get on skates and you start skating backwards. Like, don't be those two types.
It's funny because we were just talking about this other like I was the orange eater on that team, right? Like there's got not really. I didn't actually eat the oranges, but I was trying to like articulate how Urban was. He was so harsh in how the team was like put on levels, right? There was no question who the important players were, and everyone else had to stay out of the way. But instead of resenting that, when you were the guy who was like not the important player, instead of being like, oh, this dude's a jerk, I hate him, I can't believe that he treats us this way, he somehow made it so that even though he hated you, right, even though he thought you were like a second or third class citizen, you just wanted to get to the level that you were at. You know what I mean? Instead of like hating that process, it motivated you. I don't know how he did it because, I mean, the way he talked to people, the way he talked to people like me is something that wouldn't even survive right now in college football probably. But on that team in that year, it was like, no, I'll do anything for this guy because I know we'll be successful if I can get to the level that Weddle's at and Pua's at and those guys. It's like it's magic the way that he was able to motivate that way.
Yeah. I mean, you're 100%, and your experience is a little bit different than mine. So
yeah, you think?
It's not, and I don't say that arrogantly. I say it because I saw, from my point of view, exactly what you're talking about at a lesser scale, and just know, like, there are ways to be a great head coach, a great teacher, and a great mentor without having to treat kids or even men the way sometimes coaches do. So, and I learned that from the experiences of coaches like him. So, yes, as successful as he's been, there are definitely things that I don't agree with of how he talks or speaks or degrades guys at times. But hey, that's him and that's me. But yes, you're 100% right. Like, how did he manipulate and basically sell this dream while also making you feel like you're nothing? I don't know. That's a trait that I need to learn somehow.
It was wild because we had he was like that at Utah, and then when I transferred to Weber State, there was one coach on that staff, not Coach Mack, but there was one assistant coach on that staff who talked to guys the same way and was like really degrading. And when Urban did it, it was just like, oh man, I got to get out of this category. I got to be one of the dudes he doesn't talk to this way. I got to be one of the dudes he respects. And with the other coach, it was just like, everyone hates you, dude. Shut up. Like, no one felt, at least as far as I was aware, no one felt that way about Coach Meyer. You wanted to get out of the doghouse. And with this other coach, it was just like, dude, you're a loser. Shut up. And it was just, I don't know how he was able to make it one way and other coaches aren't, but it's fascinating to me. I don't know how I'm going to talk. I probably won't talk about that with him tomorrow when he comes on the show. But, all right.
Well, hey, you only live once, and you're a successful, one of the best in the business, and at the end of the day, you have every right to be like, hey, Coach Meyer, you were a dickhead to a lot of guys. And I just want you to know that even though I look back at my experience and I hated it, I actually appreciate it because it made me into who I am today. It gave me the motivation to not be the orange eater.
Yeah.
But I just want you to know that the way you talk to me, if you talk to me that way right now, you'll be choked out, knocked out, and you probably wouldn't have any teeth. Just want you to know that.
I won't. I really do appreciate the time, even though it was like, it was difficult. It really, like what you're saying, it really did build character. I know that's cliche, but it really does. If you can, yeah. Anyway, so I look forward to that. I always look forward to talking to you. Give me your prediction for the game on Saturday, and then we'll cut you loose.
Shoot, I think it's I'd be curious to what my win-loss record is and predictions over the course of the last few years being on the show. I don't know if we can ever do that, but I think it'll be close to start, feeling each other out. I think they'll have some success. But honestly, I think we pull away. So I'm thinking 31-14, 31-17. I don't see them scoring more than 20 points. So can our offense score more than 21? I think we win. So whatever that score may be, I'm thinking 31-17.
Let's go, baby. Weddle doesn't even think it's going to be that close. All right, we'll ride with that. Appreciate your time as always, dude. Good luck with your game this week. Talk again next week, all right?
You got it, buddy. Enjoy that combo tomorrow. Let me know how it goes.
I will. Love you, dude.
You got it. Love you, bro.
Oh, Eric Weddle, Utah football legend, future NFL Hall of Famer in my mind. I also think he's at some point going to be a coach at the University of Utah. Fingers crossed for that. But, yeah, that's funny. Urban Meyer, there's a lot of stuff about, you've heard me talk about, like, the ways in which he was an abrasive human. That is one thing, and I'm glad Weddle mentioned that and reminded us of that. His attention to detail on special teams and the way that punters, kickers, long snappers were not separated from the team, were not treated like they were lesser than or were less important football players. That's something. I mean, Urban at Utah, at Florida, at Ohio State, before he came to Utah at Bowling Green, his acumen in special teams was a really, truly important factor in his success. His teams were always excellent on special teams, and the standard for performance on special teams was incredibly high when he was at Utah. I can't speak to everywhere else, but I imagine it carried over. And I mean, like, the minute details, the way that you were shuffling, the way that you ran down in your lanes, and when the ball carrier was established, whoever caught the ball to return, you weren't just allowed to, like, run towards them. You had to close in on that person in formation to make sure there were no gaps. Like, very, very, very closely detailed special teams play. And obviously that attention to detail paid off. And by the way, he didn't pass it off to other people when he was at Utah. When it was special teams practice time, he was the special teams coordinator. It was Coach Meyer and Jay Hill would get everyone together and they would go through the minute details. It was not like, all right, handle this, whoever else you are. And that it's still the way it's done at Utah. Coach Witt is still heavily involved.
I think it's no coincidence that has carried over to a history and a tradition of great special teams play at the University of Utah since then, especially when Jay Hill was the coordinator, right? Like that might have been the height of it. We've seen in the past couple of years that's been something that's lacked a little bit, but certainly not for lack of attention to detail. And then the other thing I was going to say about Urban Meyer's attention to detail on special teams, I remember might have been his last year at Ohio State, and they did a impromptu fake punt. Like, the punter caught the snap and ran, and they were like on their own 20, and they did this. It was not successful. It was like 4th and 7 or whatever. It was not successful, but the broadcast team was saying that's an Urban Meyer thing. They saw something in the way that the punt coverage was, if the other team was lined up to cover the punt, and that's something that he tells his punter, if they're lined up this way, doesn't matter where we are, you can run for the first down. You will probably get it. So that, and even, I mean, it was not successful, so it didn't look very good at the time, but it was eye-opening to me to go, oh man, like he really studies this stuff, and to the point where he's confident enough that even if they're in their own, backed up to their own 20 on a 4th down and not short, he's telling his punter, go for it. Which we, like, Tom Hackett had those kind of situations that were successful at Utah after Meyer left, of course. So, yeah, that part is something super understated about his greatness, and certainly carried over past him at the University of Utah, and he took it other places as well.
All right, Daily Dump is coming next on the Sean O'Connell Show. Don't go anywhere. It's Utah's #1 sports talk, ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Daily Dump brought to you by Valley Plumbing. A bit of American football at Wembley. Arizona State and Kansas are reportedly set to square off in a September 19th, 2026 contest at Wembley Stadium, a new event that will be called the Union Jack Classic. Overseas American football. It would be the first ever NCAA Division I game played in London.
So Union Jack Classic, does this mean we might have Australian games sometimes? We might have Hawaii games? Yeah, they got the Union Jack on their state flag.
That's not the Union Jack. Those are different flags.
Oh, is that different? Okay. I thought looks the same.
The Australian flag has the Union Jack in the corner.
Right. Yeah.
Same with New Zealand. Hawaii's different.
Okay. My bad.
No, but this is Arizona State, Kansas, Big 12 teams. All right, you saw this already with the Big 12. We asked Patrick Nolan, Associate Athletic Director at the University of Utah, about this because I saw the story this morning. Like, Utah's going to get a phone call at some point. Now, whether or not a game is scheduled, to be determined. I think a lot of that's going to have to do with who the head coach is. I can't imagine that Kyle Whittingham would like to suffer the foolishness of an overseas trip. I think he's got the authority to say, no, we're not doing that. I could be totally wrong. I could be totally off base. Maybe we'll ask Coach about it next time we get an opportunity to do so. If you're having to give up, let's assume this is a Rice-Eccles home game. Let's talk about the worst possible scenario for Utah, right? Are you making the trip to Europe? Are you saying, I'm going to go watch a Utah game in Paris. I'm going to go watch a Utah game in Madrid. I'm going to go watch a Utah game in Dublin, Ireland, or whatever. I mean, college football should be played on college football campuses. Neutral site games, even at pro stadiums, are not ideal. Conference championship games, they get a pass because you want a neutral site for those.
CFP, same kind of thing, right? Or do you feel differently about CFP?
I like the CFP games that are on campus.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're talking about an expanded college football playoff model, which we're going to get, the first round is going to be on-campus games, right?
Just like this model is, yeah.
And that's the model that exists in FCS and has for the longest time. I think it's the first two rounds, right? I like that. You've earned home field advantage over the course of a season. Nothing wrong with that. I think that's great for everybody. If and when, because the Big 12, remember, these are revenue-generating opportunities. These are brand-building opportunities. These are things that are the Big 12 Conference is biting down on, and they're saying, yes, involve us in this kind of Arizona State and Kansas are going to play in London. Their fan bases are going to say, all right, we're going to London for a game. Cool. Fine. Would you be okay with giving up a home contest at Rice-Eccles Stadium for an exotic, cool trip? Over to Europe, fine. I would rather have it be a game in, like, Japan. I'd rather have it be a game in a place I haven't visited yet, and then I'd be more enthusiastic about it. In the Pac-12 affiliation, that was a more likely scenario. They were doing basketball stuff, baseball stuff, volleyball stuff over in the sort of Pacific Rim region. The travel logistics are a nightmare, no matter how, going west or east that far. You got to add a couple extra days to get rid of the jet lag. Wembley Stadium is also an iconic stadium. Wembley is, even as an American sports fan, Wembley is a big deal. Aviva Stadium, where you played in Dublin this year, not so much. But there are some really cool European football grounds that would be, imagine playing like at the Bernabeu. You get an opportunity to play American football. Maybe, you're a soccer fan by extension, and you get to go play in one of these cool cities. You get to make a week of it, hopefully, with the travel. That's the hard part about having this be like a September 19th game. It's just in your season.
Yeah, it's not the
like a kickoff classic,
Dublin
a
kickoff
week 0.
classic. Yeah,
that's cool. You're not in school yet. You can go over there. You can make some time. If Utah is going to be called and invited to something like this, that's what you need it to be. A week 0 game that stands alone, is by itself.
Or maybe like right before a bye week, if it's not that.
And that's probably what they're doing here.
That's probably what they'll do.
But even if it's after and you're in school, like you're telling these guys, all right, I know that you played at, Northern Arizona last week. We're gonna. Well, I guess they'd be hosting Northern Arizona. I know you played Northern Arizona last week. And by the way, we're getting on an airplane on Monday. We're going to practice a couple times over in England. That just throws off the whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think from a fan's perspective, that would be a really cool trip. Now, you got to be thinking about if you've got kids school age, you got to be thinking about that too on September 19th.
Oh, my gosh.
Like, from a fan's perspective, it's not ideal from that if you're thinking about it that way and if you have kids in school. But otherwise, that's a really cool trip. The other thing about it is it's crazy expensive. So it's like I would have been able to watch this game if it wasn't in Paris.
But everyone's already complaining about the rising cost of tickets on college campuses.
How about add a plane ticket to Europe
and
a hotel
and probably a rental car, maybe a rental public transport
on top
pretty
of
good.
what a ticket that you probably think is too much.
Yeah, that's
parking,
but
Uber, whatever.
But again, it is a really unique opportunity. It's a coin flip for me because
it'll certainly get a big TV exposure for something like that.
And this affords a weird kickoff time, right? So like you can do a 10 a.m. kickoff in the United States. It could be a big noon kickoff, but it's not asking your team to wake up early if you're playing in England. That's like 6
prime
p.m.
time
or whatever, right?
in Europe, yeah.
So I'm really torn on these things because I think it's neat. Like, let's say we're talking about a week 0 game. Remember when Michigan went – didn't they do this for spring ball where Jim Harbaugh took them over to Normandy and did like a historical tour or something like that?
Yeah, and I want to say, now call it switching sports here, but the Running Utes played in Spain, I want to say, in the summertime.
Basketball, they do these things a little bit more often.
Yeah, but I would think, listen, like basketball does it a little more often because you, I guess, it's a little bit better logistically for basketball. Spring football might be the time to do something like this. Might be an ideal time because you're not in the middle of a season. You're like, let's go to camp somewhere exotic for our spring camp.
That's what Jim Harbaugh in 2018 took in April took the Michigan Wolverines to Normandy. They went and did the whole D-Day thing. It was a team building and practice exercise. So that's great. Arizona State and Kansas. This will be the third international game scheduled for next year in college football. The NFL is doing 6, right? Is it 6 overseas NFL games
this year? Michigan and Central Michigan, I believe that's next year, right? In Germany?
In Germany.
So yeah, this will.
And they're going to do the one in Dublin again next year. Yeah. So this will be number 3, and the Big 12 Conference is going to jump at these opportunities because the responsibility, the need to showcase in unique slots, in unique situations, and maybe have some standalone games, it's just more pressing in the Big 12 Conference. I'm telling you, Utah is going to get invited to do one of these things.
Savvy move by Brett Yormark to say, hey, let us go there too, by the way, because this is probably the best way to get some extra coverage of your conference, of what you think will be your best programs in the conference that particular season.
I think for London, I would go. I would go if it was in London. I really love London. London's really cool. Dublin, I kind of have to say, I'd be willing to go because of my Irish heritage. I mean, the main street in Dublin is O'Connell Street. I have to.
Got to go there, get a pick on O'Connell Street for sure.
Paris, I don't like. Paris is, once you've done Paris, you don't need to keep doing Paris over and over again.
Okay.
I've only been to a couple places in Spain, so like Madrid, Barcelona, those are places I'd probably say, let's go.
Berlin or somewhere in Germany?
Berlin, I've been to Berlin one time. It was for a PFL event, and it was amazing. I would go to Berlin again anytime. Any of the Scandinavian, like Stockholm, you go to Helsinki if they want to get involved here. What other European capitals, European cities could we see maybe hosting? You got to already have a stadium.
Yeah, and the thing about all these capitals is they do have giant soccer stadiums.
Okay, guys, here's what we need. Amsterdam.
Ooh, yeah.
Utah football playing Colorado in Amsterdam.
How about BYU football in Amsterdam?
Oh, no. Utah BYU has to be
not
in-state.
Utah BYU. I'm saying BYU in Amsterdam.
Now,
that would be kind of funny.
Absolutely, yes. BYU in Amsterdam, and just
people watch.
Just see how many of them are wandering into certain parts of the city. Just out of curiosity. just like, is this place really what they say it is? I'm going to walk around this corner here. Todd, you are not walking around that corner. Get back here. Sorry, honey.
Same way, like when Jimmer Mania was happening and they played the Sweet 16 game in New Orleans.
Oh yeah,
same kind of thing, but probably on
BYU fans. BYU fans love Vegas. All right,
yeah.
So BYU fans in Amsterdam, let's go. You know, what happens there stays there.
Amsterdam would be a place. Would be a good place.
See, I think BYU. If BYU gets invited to an international game, and they will, BYU fans are gonna travel.
Oh yeah.
They all know somebody who works for the airlines. They all have some kind of international connection somehow.
Yeah, someone in the family has someone they know from their mission in that area.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly, right? So, I mean, if these European venues are really thinking the right way, they'll be like, hey, let's get BYU to come over here.
Plenty of people in the Utah fan base, too. That's why it's ideal for Utah from that perspective, too. Vienna.
Ooh. I've never been to Vienna.
I would love to go to Vienna.
James, as the program director,
let's go.
When Utah gets invited and accepts a European game, we're going to have to do a whole week of shows in Vienna, in Amsterdam, in Stockholm,
and we can take
Lisbon.
a train to Budapest while we're there. And
yeah,
I can show you. I can show
see
you
your old
Hungary.
stomping grounds. Not bad.
Yeah.
All right.
So that's like Vienna was so ridiculously close to where my mission that I was like, man, I'm itching to get to Vienna.
Did you never get over there?
No, it's not in the boundaries, so we're not allowed to go. But
what a rule follower you are, James.
Yeah. You know, you have to be.
That actually
zone leader over here. Okay, you got to follow the rules.
See that actually would be not LDS church member, so never served a mission. That would be the hardest thing, to be tantalizingly close to something that like you have
Probably
to see
out of the boundaries. Yeah,
and be like, oh yeah, you can't go. Be like, when is the next time
that I'm going to be here?
Like if you're in Sao Paulo, Brazil for your mission, a bunch of my buddies got called to Brazil. If you're in Sao Paulo and you never get to go to Rio de Janeiro, they're just like, yeah, no, you can't go there. No. It's in the same country. It's like an hour away on a plane. Like, let me just go. Let me go see the Redentor. Let me go see the cathedral. Let me go see Copacabana. Let me go see Ipanema. It's like, no, you have to. That would have been impossible for me, James.
Would you have also been like, the beach is right there. I can't swim, really? Would that have also been really hard
100%.
in that kind of area?
Yes.
That's the kind of stuff that missionaries got to think about.
You know, one of my great friends from the University of Utah, he went on a mission to Hawaii, okay? There are very few places you can be where you can't like hear, see, or smell the ocean. And he extended his mission. Shout out my guy Amin Shaheen. He extended his mission, I believe, multiple times. So he was there for almost 3 years. And didn't get to go swimming? You crazy? Anyway, this is not mission radio. It's the Sean O'Connell Show. Dishing with Dev is coming. It's Utah's #1 sports talk on ESPN 792 on FM. Jeez. Always great catching up with Devin Dampier. Obviously, we had to do that kind of impromptu yesterday, and we decided to play it again today because on Thursdays is when many of you are expecting to hear from quarterback number one. There's been a lot on television this morning. There's a lot right now in the news as we get closer to the weekend, anticipating Texas Tech versus Utah. Been a lot about Devin specifically and about his 73% completion percentage so far this season. 7 touchdowns, no interceptions. That was the trivia question yesterday. How many touchdowns has he thrown? That's a really, really solid start for Devin Dampier. There's a question for some about whether or not that's truly sustainable. I went on Ari Temkin's show. Ari Temkin comes on our show all the time. I went on Ari Temkin's show this morning, and we talked about sort of if there has to be an offensive change, if there has to be a philosophical departure from what you've done so far in these first 3 weeks, because the level of competition takes a pretty significant step up against Texas Tech. And my answer to Ari when he asked that question, I think is the right one. Of course, I think it's the right one. I think you just keep doing what you're doing. I actually think that a low-scoring, sustained drives, dink and dunk kind of game helps Utah in this one. Do we want to establish and see in front of our eyes that this Utah offense can take the top off of defense and have a 60-yard touchdown pass? Of course. If you have to wait until you're playing against Arizona to see that, I'm fine. If you don't see that until West Virginia, that's fine. You don't necessarily want to get into the Red Raiders type of contest, and that's what they're going to be trying to do to you. I beat this point probably to death, but Baron Morton is a very efficient passer right now. Baron Morton is averaging more than 11 yards per completion. That is a daunting number to have to go up against. 11.4 yards not per completion. 11.4 yards per attempt. He's thrown the ball 81 times. He's completed 57 of those, just north of 70%. He's got 923 passing yards right now. Only Sawyer Robertson at Baylor in the Big 12 Conference has more passing yards. But that's because Baylor has attempted 54 more passes than Texas Tech has. Baylor is excessively dependent on their passing game right now. Baron Morton, 11 touchdowns, 1 interception. When you look at the actual numbers in this contest, and we're going to take a deeper dive into them tomorrow, our final show of the week, before we see you up there at Rice-Eccles Stadium on Saturday. Devin Dampier is a guy that obviously he's a much more proficient rusher than Baron Morton is. His escapability makes him a bigger weapon, puts him higher on the Heisman odds, as we talked about earlier today, because when you try to project those things out, a quarterback who has the ability to hurt you with his legs. I mean, when's the last time a true pocket passing quarterback even won the Heisman Trophy? Was it Joe Burrow? Is Joe Burrow the last one?
I think he might be. Trying to think of other quarterbacks that have won recently. I'm not sure anyone in the 2020s out of the quarterbacks have been the pure pocket passer that Joe Burrow was.
I mean, it's almost a requisite now. It's become mostly a quarterback award in college football, but it's almost become like a requirement that you are a dual threat quarterback, because college football leans so heavily on a quarterback's ability to take over a game. And if you have the ability to take over a game with your legs in addition to your arms, it makes you a much more dangerous person. Yeah, Joe Burrow.
Yeah, since Joe Burrow, the quarterbacks that have won are Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams, and Bryce Young, all dual threat, and you could argue very reliant on their legs.
And if you go to the quarterbacks before Joe Burrow who won it. I mean, Kyler Murray. Baker Mayfield was pretty solid in the pocket.
But also a guy that scrambled quite a bit. Caleb Williams and Baker Mayfield they threw it probably more than they ran, but they used their legs a ton to be able to throw the ball.
You're absolutely right. And when you talk about, I mean, you've been very tongue in cheek with the Heisman moment for Devin Dampier, right, with that Wyoming play, but
it was a great highlight, not somewhat for the wrong reason.
When you talk about a lot of the Heisman moments for a lot of these quarterbacks, even if it's not a touchdown run, it is the ability to escape pressure, to keep a play alive.
Extend the play.
The play, look downfield, make some crazy heroic throw either in the grasp or because you've already escaped pressure. Caleb Williams, it was absolutely kind of the mark of him winning it. Lamar Jackson won a Heisman Trophy, dual threat. Marcus Mariota won a Heisman, dual threat quarterback. Jameis Winston, Johnny Manziel, RG3, Cam Newton. I mean, Sam Bradford was a statue back in 2008.
I think Jameis might have been as much of a pocket passer, more of a pocket passer than those other group of guys. You could put him with Baker Mayfield maybe, and as like a guy who used his athleticism and his legs to extend plays, but also
not exactly a threat in the open field.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you could probably put him in that like tweener category, but yeah, like it's Joe Burrow and then it's probably Sam Bradford is like absolutely stand in the pocket and make the great throw.
So that departure from what we were already talking about is just like Devin Dampier is right now, he's the archetype model for college football quarterback, take over a game, use everything at your disposal. And you're in a conference of quarterbacks where, you know, Baron Morton, crazy productive, Sawyer Robertson, crazy productive, Josh Hoover at TCU is looking excellent right now. Sam Leavitt, I think, is probably going to bounce back from a couple of substandard performances. You're not the only quarterback in the conference who's athletically proficient, but you are the most dangerous runner of the group that I just mentioned. So Devin's got this really interesting role to play for Utah football and for the Big 12 Conference, because when you're talking about the dynamic highlight reel SportsCenter top 10 type plays, he's on the very short list of guys in the conference that can provide you that on a week in, week out basis. And I say that while also acknowledging that there are a sizable, knowledgeable number of Utah football fans that don't want to see him taking unnecessary hits and don't want to see him using his legs in a reckless manner. I will remind you of this. There was a time where they were trying to turn Tyler Huntley into a pocket passer at the University of Utah. And it was somewhat constructed. It made him better at reading defenses, and it made him better at throwing the ball, period. But the best version of him was when they took the governor chip off and said, all right, we've developed your arm as much as we're going to be able to develop your arm. We developed your passing game as much as we're going to be able to. Let's not forget what you're really good at. You can go ahead and run that ball.
Remember the Arizona quarterback was Khalil Tate? Was that his name?
Yeah.
What was the coach at the time? He was Johnny
Sumlin.
Manziel's coach too. Kevin Sumlin completely ruined because of that. He said, "Now we're gonna make you a pocket passer only." After he was a preseason Heisman favorite because of what he could do as a runner.
That whole situation was so grossly mismanaged because Khalil Tate is the reason that Arizona did not hire Ken Neomatalolo.
Yeah,
because he said something to the effect of, I didn't come here to run the option. And Arizona panicked and backed off Ken Neomatalolo, who's an excellent coach.
And someone just had a nice run at Texas A&M. He was with obviously Johnny Manziel won the Heisman under him, so he was a high-profile hire.
But he was largely disinterested in being the head coach at Arizona.
Yeah, it was so bad.
And Ken would have run something different at Arizona.
that would have utilized his athleticism and his legs way more, and it would have probably have organically made Khalil Tate a better passer because he would have had better throws, but more open throws to do. But anyway, that's what I think of too, is like guys that you're like, they are dual threat, and that's what makes them special. We're going to make you a passer only. Like, that's the situation that I think of where it's like, that was a complete wrong decision.
All right, there's a little trip down memory lane for you. Sean O'Connell Show. Big thanks to Devin for always joining us. Big thanks to our sponsors for making it possible on Dishing with Dev. Utah's #1 sports talk, the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. There are a few things I like better than a local sports crossover where I imagine Saturday, big show, big game, Utah Utes, Texas Tech Red Raiders, Fox Big Noon kickoff, everybody in the state, everybody in the area, everybody in the West, everybody in the country kind of aware of the magnitude of this one early in the season. I imagine we see some Utah Mammoth out there at Rice-Eccles Stadium. They're in town. They're in camp. But hockey guys are hockey guys, so they're probably just like, yeah, we could just push practice till later, right, Coach? And I mean, they're very the hockey approach to preseason training camp is so wildly different than what we're used to in every other sport.
It's like a week long, and then they're out preseason, and then a week and a half later, regular season action. Yeah, especially for a sport that's so violent like hockey, you would expect it to be longer, but there you go.
Keontae George, Kyle Filipowski, Bryce Sensabaugh, Oscar Chibwe, Cody Williams, Isaiah Collier, John Tangent, Walt Clayton Jr., and Taylor Hendricks were on campus, on the field, in the stadium at Rice-Eccles, doing a little preseason workout. This is what I'm talking about. All right? That is great. What I need, all of you folks out there with your great creativity, your artistic connections.
Or really good with AI, whatever.
We need merch crossover here, okay? We need Jazz gear in Utes colors. We need Utes gear in Jazz colors.
Whatever those are nowadays.
I'm talking about the highlighter yellow, of course.
Of course. Lowry Markman's favorite.
I need
Shout out to Lowry.
I need Mammoth gear in Utes colors. I need Utes gear in Mammoth colors. People like you folks, you own printing, television, like screen printing stuff. You own the Tackle Twill shops, or you have connections.
And just give each of us one of each, and we'll wear it on the show.
I'll pay.
How about that?
I'll pay a discounted. I'll pay a sales price. For
OC will pay.
I will pay a clearance price for it. I'll pay wholesale cost, and we'll represent your gear. I love that crossover stuff. Like New Era, the hat company, does these limited releases where they'll do that. They'll do like a Cleveland sort of run where all the Cleveland teams swap colors. They'll do the New York run where all the New York teams swap colors, and they make these hats. And then the hats, which, by the way, all of you hat-wearing folks out there, good on you. Congratulations on being millionaires. Because when we were kids, a hat was like $20. You had to earn the $20. Mom or dad had to crack off a 20, and that was going to get you it was going to get you a fitted hat. Now hats are like $65.
Yeah.
$45 to $65.
It's crazy. It's not unlike how jerseys and hockey sweaters and stuff have gone up since that time too. Dude, even more so.
Those numbers are bananas.
I was shocked. I think I probably said this on the air. I was shocked, and I know that people love minor league baseball hats. You mentioned they get a lot more creative with minor league baseball hats than they do with major league baseball hats. So there's so many different versions of it. But I'd never looked around the Bees team store before, and I went to one of the final games at Smith's Ballpark, and I was shocked to see even a Bees hat is a lot more expensive than I thought it would be. I was like, oh, okay, this is a little bit less than a Major League Baseball hat I can get. Everything's just crazy expensive.
When you're cheap like me.
Yeah, and I put myself in that boat too.
It gets tough to be a decked out sports fan. There are other mechanisms though for getting jerseys from China.
Yeah. Now, the hats are not quite that market is not big. You can't quite get the same thing in the hat market as you can with jerseys that way.
I've never tried to purchase a hat from a bootleg kind of scenario.
Yeah, officially, I have never purchased anything in that scenario.
There's copyright rules or something that even purchasing
might be. I don't know.
If you get an NFL jersey from DH Gates, it's just you're participating in an illegal market economy. I don't know. Oh, here we go. Every year, all right, right now on television in front of me, Steph Curry. People are freaking out because Steph Curry is showed up looking extra buff. This happens with at least one NBA player every year, right?
Yeah, and Steph is literally the flavor of the month right now because what was it a month ago? It was Luka.
It was Luka. Now Luka, it's funny because Steph doesn't need to do that at all. A more muscular Steph, if it messes with his shooting stroke, people are going to be like, oh, stop lifting weights, whatever. Luka, it kind of makes sense. Steph with a few more veins in his forearms, I don't think changes the player that he is. A lean Luka may or may not.
Yeah, that would seem to really change the equation for Luka, make him more durable, and make him a better player. Steph, like he's been buff and toned for what, more than 10 years now. So like it wasn't his first few years in the league, but ever since he won his first MVP, it seems like he's been coming in with some show off muscles there. So I'm like, how different is this with Steph? Also, Trae Young apparently winning all the prizes in the Oklahoma State Fair basketball like boardwalk games they got there. Like, okay, cheater. NBA players shooting hoops and winning all this stuffed animals. Come on.
Those Carney hoops though, they're not regulation.
Okay.
They're oval shaped. They're designed to make it. It's probably harder for him.
Okay, because you're saying you're impressed by this a little
I am, because those carnival games, right? You go to like Lagoon. I'm watching you, Lagoon.
Yeah, that's true. Or any of the Six Flags have the same kind of thing Lagoon has.
Like you take a dead eye shooter to those places, unless you swish it, that thing's not going through clean.
Case in point, me, OC. I struggle on those hoops, and I'm a great shooter. So,
you know the only game
shameless plug on my
carnival
shooting game.
The only carnival game I'm really ever going to win much at is when they guess your weight. I'm much heavier than I look. It's true. People don't realize there's a lot of junk in this trunk. I have dense bones.
You clean up on those.
Yeah. And it's not like I look thin, and so people are like, oh, you weigh 200 pounds. No, they're like, okay, all right, you got the dad bod now, but my dad bod is a heavier dad bod than you think it is. So all of you carnival barkers trying to guess my weight, good luck.
You're going to lose every time.
All right, we got to wrap up the show in our next segment. Is Spence on remote today?
He is in studio today.
Oh, nice. Okay, so we'll talk with Spence Checketts for a little crosstalk. We'll give away Riley Green coming to Utah First Credit Union Amphitheater July 23rd. We have a pair of tickets to give away. You can find more information on the concert at ESPN700sports.com. The Sean O'Connell Show on Utah's #1 sports talk, ESPN 700. Elevate, educate, and celebrate at Canna Fan Fest Saturday, September 27th at Granary Live. Our very own Big Buddha is going to be hosting live music. Canna Fan Fest tickets free with your medical cannabis card at cannafanfest.com. 2 tickets to Riley Green. He's coming to the Utah First Credit Union Amphitheater July 23rd, 2026. 2 tickets to Riley Green if you can answer this question at 877-353-0700. According to the updated Heisman Trophy betting odds, Devin Dampier is tied for what? Where does he rank from most likely to least likely in the country? Tied for what number? Sean O'Connell Show. We'll give you some Riley Green tickets if you know. We talked about it earlier on the show. Spence Checketts in the Drive coming up next. 4 hours of dulcet tones, entertaining and educating you. Hey, Spence.
There we go. It's very kind of you, Sean. How are you?
Great.
Big week, man. You can feel it. If you can feel it around town. Up on campus, I took the station mascot, Duke, to just walk around campus today, and we just did a quick little lap. Went up through where I think they're setting up Big Noon, walked by Rice Eccles. It's just one of those weeks where you can feel it. It reminds me of when, game day was here. Unfortunately, in the past, we've had a couple of instances when big national panels and broadcasts have been here that have not gone well. TCU back in the day. College game day was here, and Bill and I did our show up on campus. What was it, 47-7? I think that was the final of the TCU-Utah game.
Why are you bringing up old stuff?
Because I'm going to land the plane, and then Oregon rolls in and smokes Utah. Cam, of course, was not healthy. I think we're due for a better performance when the eyes of the college football world are on Salt Lake City. I think we're due. Give me the Sean O'Connell confidence level that Utah football can get this done Saturday morning.
Moderately high. Like I'm not unrealistic about what Texas Tech is.
Sure.
They're a talented team, and there is a question, I think a reasonable question, about whether or not Texas Tech's best offensive strength right now matches up with the Utah football liability as they're getting the secondary, kind of fully figured out.
Yeah.
But also I think that you're going to get some pressure up front from the Utes. You've been getting pressure with a 4-man rush, which means you haven't really given people a lot to look at in terms of, well, this is what, this motion or this formation or this blitz is coming. Like Morgan Scalley hasn't had to go into his bag all that much. I think you're going to see more of that in this game. So, but I've said it on the show, and I'll keep saying it, and we'll say it tomorrow. If all other things cancel themselves out, like Utah's great offensive line and Texas Tech's great defensive line cancels out, and it comes down to which team has the want to, which team has the grit, which team has the culture to overcome mistakes and all that kind of thing. Kyle Whittingham has been here for 21 years. Morgan Scalley has been here for just as long, basically. Longer if you're talking about him as a player and a coach, more than 20 years up on the Hill. And Jason Beck has done some really great things, but the identity of Utah football, if it is what we think it is exactly, all right, you're just as talented as us? Well, we're tougher than you. You can cancel out some of the things that we do well. All right, well, we're going to find a way. That's what Utah football is supposed to be. And I give respect to Texas Tech, but Joey McGuire is a 16-year-old driving a Ferrari right now. He's a decent coach with a very, very talented roster. He doesn't have the same level of demonstrated success, the same level of demonstrated experience in deploying even elite weapons to massive success. So I still believe more in Utah than in Texas Tech, even if the talent kind of washes out.
Your point about Joel Klatt broke this down today because Joel obviously is on the call tomorrow. So I was listening to his pod as I was walking Duke around, also caught you and Ewed. Good job there. Joel said the very same thing, that the one danger zone for Utah defensively is Tech's ability to put it in the air. And we know Morgan likes to get aggressive, press man. So that could potentially lead to some big plays for Tech. I kind of tend to side with you, though, because a lot of the narrative this week in pods I've listened to or things I've read or shows I've watched is, Cody Campbell watching his alma mater and watching their ability to score points and watching their ability to put up big yards. I mean, that's been Tech forever. Way back, Leach, we could talk about Patrick Mahomes, and Cody Campbell saying, we are not tough enough. We have to figure it out in the trenches. So they bring in 3 offensive linemen through the transfer portal. You reference their defensive ends are bad boys, dude. I was watching some highlights. Both those two get after the quarterback. But this is the first year that Tech is trying to lean into that identity. And to your point, that's been Utah's identity for 21 years now. So if that's what they're bringing, and if they're counting on it, I agree with you. I'll take Utah.
And by the way, the rubber meets the road for both teams this week.
Yep.
Right?
Sure does.
Romello Height and David Bailey, like you said, awesome.
Yeah.
They were big-time free agents. Caleb Lomu and Spencer Fano, are you a first-round draft pick?
That's what it comes down to, dude, right there.
Because you get to prove it this week.
Yeah.
You have the opportunity in 2 days to go show people all of that preseason hype, all that gas. There's a reason for it. And knowing that these guys have put in that kind of work, knowing they have the right mentality, knowing that the guy steering the ship doesn't let anyone get out over their skis, it's a comforting thing. And it's a home game, which does matter or should matter at Rice-Eccles Stadium. I mean, would I be shocked if Texas Tech comes in here and hurts Utah and Utah loses this game? No. It's a long season ahead, plenty of opportunity to battle back to a Big 12 champion. It's not the season does not come down to Saturday. But I think Utah is what Utah should have been in 2023 and 2024, and injuries took that away. I'm sure you'll spend some time talking about the first Kyle Whittingham mandated injury report.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Just hilariously sparse.
It's just classic.
It's
right on brand.
It's just the most classic thing ever. But, this is what you sign up for when you're a big-time recruit, when you're a big-time transfer, when you're a big-time college football player. It's not so you can be squaring off against Cal Poly at Rice-Eccles Stadium. You want nationally televised game, sold-out show, all eyes on me, and I'm going to go punch this team in the face.
Yeah, as a former bar bouncer, you will appreciate, I was watching Cal Poly with a buddy, second half, and he said Spencer and Caleb look like bar bouncers. He looks like Sean O'Connell at Park City Live in 2001, throwing a young Spence Checketts out of the bar because it was time to go. Like they were just picking dudes up and throwing them around.
Even in pass sets.
Yeah.
It was hilarious.
Yeah, so this will be the true test, and everybody is talking about it too. Klatt today said he thinks Spencer's a top 10 pick, So you didn't prove anything to anybody over the first 3 weeks, and Saturday is your chance. With the eyes of the college football world on you, there will be millions of people watching this game on Saturday.
Urban Meyer's going to be here, and he's coming on the Sean O'Connell Show tomorrow.
Hell yes, Urban Meyer on Colin Cowherd today wearing a Utah quarter zip.
Love that.
Said go Utes at the end of his interview.
I cannot wait to say, first question, hey, Coach, remember me?
What do you think the answer is going to be?
Absolutely not.
No chance?
There's less than zero chance.
Less than zero chance.
Yeah. I mean, no. There's no way.
Yeah, Urban repping the Utes hard today on all this national hits, so that was cool.
All right, stay tuned for the drive with Spence Checketts. He's got 4 hours. And then, of course, tune in for the Sean O'Connell Show tomorrow. We will have Urban Meyer. We also have Coordinator's Corner. You're going to want to hear it all on Utah's #1 sports talk, ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. Oh, and by the way, correct answer on the trivia question was Devin Dampier tied for 7th best Heisman odds right now. Woo! Go Utes, ESPN 700.